I'm going to cheers you with very little wine, but it's okay. I think we have more where that came from.
We're here.
I'm just going to start opening expensive bottles of your stuff. Oh, look, there's HD3 right there.
There's HG3. Actually, this is the...
Or the Sauv Blanc, that's what I mean. Yeah.
It's out of vintage. I almost opened some cool Bauge for you.
What is the vintage of those?
22.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have a sample of the 23 that I'm like, I could use, but I'm like, I didn't end up opening, and I ended up trying when I had a banquet ordered anyway. Yeah. And I'm like, well, now I have a bottle that's sitting there.
Yeah.
But worst problems to have.
It's worst problems to have.
Wait, we're rolling, right?
We're rolling. We can
exciting.
cheers again. Do you want to cheers again?
That's fine. I don't like you that much.
Will, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome back. I'd like to...
I was going to make a joke there.
I'd like to apologize for the recent, not even recent now, it's been a while, but we recorded an episode for season 2 of the podcast, and I accidentally deleted the video.
That's okay, because my life has been very exciting since then.
Perfect. You'll get to update us all.
We love that.
And people could pay if they want to listen to the original.
Like Andy pay?
Yeah. Oh.
Man, this is already better.
Yeah.
So see, the people, we're giving the people bonus content
Give the people
at a higher quality. Yeah, you got to do it. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to fucking do it.
And then also, it's been archived, but our first season was all audio, and you were one of the only 2 people that I interviewed. 1, John Lancaster, and 2, Will Pye.
Right.
So welcome back for the 3rd time. Yeah.
Maybe the 4th.
Season 1, audio.
Yes.
Season 2, deleted video.
Yes.
The audio exists. We could listen to it another time. And now your 3rd appearance on the show.
Maybe if we're both, or I, or you, or whoever is famous one day, we can go back and like post the lost episodes. That would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then secondly, I was already thinking like I would love it because John and I just asked to have a meeting today just to like talk about life and everything else. And we sat and we were supposed to talk for like a few minutes. I didn't mean to like go on forever, but we sat and chatted for like half an hour about just wine and life and everything else. And I was like, it'd be cool if like the 3 of us.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
So, I mean, that's possible on the weekends because I think he's still taking Saturdays off.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's why I went to Boulevard last Friday night.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Drank some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun restaurant. Yeah. There's not a lot of those left like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that program is well tailored.
I just like that I get to be Baby Boulevard.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
It's cool. I mean, that was always the cool thing is it's like, you know, I would show up to tastings and stuff and I would kind of like walk in and just like be like real quiet. And people would be like, why doesn't everybody go around the table and like say where you work? And it'd be like, Birdsong, Atelier Cran, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
People would be like, okay. And then I'd be like, Boulevard. And then afterwards they'd be like, you work at Boulevard? I go like, yeah. And they go like, how's John? He's one of my favorites.
Dude,
he's one of my favorites.
I always get a reaction and I'm always like, I don't deserve this because really it's him. It's not me. No, well, you know, I'm just too, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. I feel like I'm doing a decent job, but it's really a lot of access because of stuff that he's done and people he's known a long time. And also, it doesn't hurt.
And also to put it into perspective, because I think that this is such a great.
Can I put some perspective and wine in my glass? I mean, I'll just stick with the game. I just was twirling for a while and it was empty.
We'll we can go into the first blind after this. Yeah, I think that I don't even remember where I was going.
It's okay. He can edit it or not.
No, we don't really edit it. Once we get going, we don't really edit it.
Oh, I like that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, if somebody needs to get up for the restroom, then it's one thing. And then one day we had the window open and like a bug was like ramming itself into the light and it was really loud and annoying. And so other than that, we've never had to edit anything.
That's cool.
So we could, maybe if those are saved, we could also re-release those when we're famous.
That'd be kind of fun. You could do bloopers. Who doesn't like bloopers?
Oh, we could totally do bloopers.
Everyone likes bloopers. When I was a kid and they would have like a blooper at a movie or whatever, you're always like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. America's Funniest Home Videos.
Big facts.
Yeah. Let's see. So happy to have you back. Given that we lost the first video and haven't posted the audio, and our season 1 is archived, I'd like you to reintroduce yourself to the people. You are, because I've just been dragging my feet on it, I guess, also the only person here that has had an extensive experience in the kitchen. Some people have worked in the kitchen as well. I have a plan to get some chefs on. I've got my first retailers coming next week because I got a couple people say, you don't have anybody from the retail side. I was like, it's not that I'm not trying. It's just that
We don't like them.
I forget. No,
I'm just kidding. It was just more fun to say. Come on, this is podcast. This is a podcast. We got to be cutting edge.
Thankfully, oh no, it'll be out by the. No, I interview them Sunday, Monday. This episode will come out Tuesday. No, I interview them Monday, Tuesday. Oh, you might get in trouble.
Good.
If he listens to it that day,
Somebody come into
shots
Prospect
fired.
and square up. I mean, odds are I'll be like, don't hurt me. I have Dujak.
let's drink wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please let me. I'll
Yeah.
I'll save myself with some. I don't know, whatever. I'll put
Come
some.
in, let's
I'll
have
put
a
some,
cool wine
I'll put
off.
some Latour in your glass, and all is forgiven. It'll be great.
Check this out, motherfucker.
Yeah.
How about this?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
another. And take some pay. Yeah, that's what we do. I had Rafanelli on my Friday wine tonight. It was fun. Well,
That's great.
we're doing like a and this is we're just gonna ramble, but we're doing a we always do a Friday night special.
Great.
And across the summer it was fried chicken, and I was trying to get people to drink champagne with fried chicken, and then I was trying to get people to drink Riesling with fried chicken because duh.
Why not?
And then we are now switching over to like a prime rib pop over green spinach, like kind of like House of Prime Rib but elevated kind of situation. And so I was like, for the inaugural week of this dish, let's do something fun. I sold Rafanelli for way less than it should have cost, and people bought it.
The cab.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not even as much as they should have. I did the Zin a few weeks ago just because it's like one of the Zins that actually just makes me really happy.
Yeah.
And it was great. And I was like, why did more? Some people bought it, but I'm like, dude, this is $23 a glass for Rafanelli cab.
Pretty sick. Yeah.
Just saying.
First of all, you can't buy it.
No.
Right? When I was a
find
buyer,
it.
I asked
Yeah,
for a cab and
good
they
luck.
laughed in my face.
Go find it. Yeah.
And that was even during the pandemic times. I remember having a conversation with John, and I said, hey, John, I'm building this list. Can I get a little bit of advice? And I'm like, hey, well, I already have this and this, and I bought this. He's like, you got that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I guess you're in this. And I remember him saying this, and I just remember, not really, it didn't register until I finally got cut off later on. He was like, you're in this really cool spot right now. I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, just you're open when a lot of other restaurants aren't.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get a lot of allocations.
I was just no one's taking him.
Yeah, okay. And then I not even that I, in general, am in love with Sea Smoke as a winery.
No.
But I was like, I need, a good name that I can charge a decent chunk of money for. And I called, I asked about it, and they go, yeah, we can get you some. I was like, great. And I reordered it 6 times, and I would switch back from the 10, and I can't remember what the other one is. And then finally they were like, oh, we can't sell you anymore. I was like,
yeah. Good luck.
Why?
Hey, do that now.
Yeah,
pick up the phone tomorrow. And
right,
be like,
right.
Yeah. Good luck.
I was like,
Good
what
luck.
do you mean? And they were like, well, usually this is a really allocated wine. I was like, how about 40 bottles?
Yeah.
What are you, so 42 bottles? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they go yeah, you're done. Sorry. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean allocation. We apparently at Prospect sold a lot of not all, but a lot of our stuff, and had to rebuild and everything. So I'm grateful to have come in after it had been partially rebuilt, rather than having to. I mean, in a way, it kind of would have been fun to have to rebuild everything because it'd be my personality on everything. Yeah. But I've moved enough inventory in the last year, approaching year and a half, that I've been able to that's feels a lot more like my list now than it did even 6 months ago.
Yeah, and I think too, being able to kind of focus on a particular wine, sell it out, and then replace it is also it's almost its own little treat, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get rid of it. And that was one of the things John used to get pissed off at me because I would sell a lot of Literite.
I knew you were going to say Literite. Yeah.
And he would be like, "Can you slow it down?" And I'd be like, "Okay." And then I'd wipe out all the 06 Beau Castell, and he'd be like, "Hey,
wait, yeah, I can't just snap my fingers and get
in and off on the Corvin, right?" And I'd be like, "Oh, my bad," and that's one of the.
And you're at the table, just you have to drink Beau Castell, which you do.
There's a 16 top. I'm like, everybody needs a bottle of Literite, and I'm like, well, I think I only have 6 downstairs, and he'd come in and he'd be like, Chris, what the fuck? I'd be like, what? Just buy more.
I mean, I have bottles. I mean, everyone, I'm sure it's because you have those bottles, you remember them, but there's certain bottles from certain producers that are just Rafanelli is one of them. And I'm pissed because when I first started, we had a good supply, and apparently they did too, of 18. And I actually need to bug them again to be like, do you have any more? But I remember I switched from the 18 to the 19, and then just randomly I kind of went in a spout of or a little drought of not selling as much. And then I ordered it again, and it was 21. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I'm not mad. Like the 21's good, but I was
Right,
like,
sure.
there was a while. I still have splits of the 18. Hint, hint. Anyone come in and drink them, but splits of the 18, and I'm like, that's like
Yeah.
anything in Napa in 18. I'm like, just Northern California for that
Yeah.
matter. Just drink it. Like it's good for your soul.
The wines are great. I think, one of the best things about Rafanelli is, at our wedding, we opened that 2014
Right,
cab,
right.
and it was just fucking singing.
I will always
So it
put
was
that wine.
a decade old, and it was just in space.
I charge nothing for that wine. It's
Yeah.
one of those cabs where like if it's I tell servers and like sometimes the servers are like they were looking at cabs and they like settled and they only got this one for like $125. And I'm like, it's Alberto Raffanelli.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you don't get it and you don't need to. If you don't get it, then like we have nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Not being but
let
I'm
'em
just like
buy
it's
it.
like yeah, just like it's like about the money. Like it's
Yeah.
they're drinking great wine. Like shut up.
Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna have a great experience, and maybe they'll come back because they had a great experience. Imagine that.
I think that's one of the things that's kind of like I don't think that it's lost necessarily, but I think it's also one of the things that's
Lost on
happened.
the servers I work with.
Well, it's lost in a lot of our service
Shade,
industry.
shade. I hope they're listening.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's lost in a lot of the service industry in San Francisco. San Francisco's. This brings me back to the point I lost earlier. San Francisco is expensive. San Francisco is hard to sustain in. But the other thing that I was going to mention earlier, and I forgot, is that we're so lucky to have as much exposure to the wines that we do. Because again,
Unfair.
like the state of Texas used to get like 10 cases of Rafanelli Cab for the entire state.
And I'll probably do that in a year.
Right. And so, we're also so lucky to represent so many great wineries and have access to so many wines that, like, to us, not to us, but, like, to a lot of people, it can get, like, yeah, whatever. They ordered some Pure Yves Colin Marais. It's like, you still, like, that's still, like, a fucking benchmark producer.
There's a
to
lot of
not
people
get
that don't just
excited
have that laying around.
And that's me talking about wines at the $150+ price point. But even in the $100 price point, or the sub $100 price
I
point,
have
there's
Pure
so
Yves
many
Colin
cool
Marais
things.
I remember when one of the nights that we went out, we went to Bix and we drank the Bourgogne Blanc.
Yeah.
No,
Saint Aubin.
we drank the Saint Aubin.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Saint Aubin was like, I want to say $1.25.
Yeah.
The Saint Aubin now on a moderately priced list is close to $200.
Yeah, it's like 185. I was thinking. Yeah.
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 I charge $1.25 for the Hautes Côtes de Beaune, the Albas de Monde.
Yeah.
If I'm not butchering that, but it's a great bottle of wine. It literally sits like right above some of the Saint Aubin Premier Cru, but it's like 125 for that, and it's like an Hautes Côtes de Beaune. Like that wine should be like $75, $85 and less, but we can't do that now. We don't get to have fun anymore.
Well, and also too, like this kind of also ties into other conversations that I've had with a lot of people recently. There's a restaurant that I call on that's closing, was asked to remain unnamed, and one of the things that they were expressing was that like,
Ooh, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I do.
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after.
Talk about it offline. And anyways, they were expressing their struggles, and one of the struggles was obviously like getting enough people in the door, because they've been struggling with all of these people working remotely, which is not as much of an issue now. We've
Still
reached
an issue,
October 1st. Right. We've reached October 1st. You have Transamerica, Salesforce, and the Visa building, 80% staff, 4 days a week. It's a lot of foot traffic. But now people are commuting an hour and a half, an hour. And now they're like, I don't want to go to happy hour. I don't want to go out and have a drink because I'm going to have to sit in so much fucking traffic to get home, because they all moved further away because they thought I'm never going to have to
be like
come
that
back
forever,
to the office.
and it wouldn't. I don't feel bad for them, by the way.
I don't feel bad for them.
I just don't. It's just a weird. Like you are on the road, on the grind all the time. I'm at work on my feet for 5 nights a week. Like I don't get to work remote. So like, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to taste wine remotely.
People
in my
complain.
world.
Oh, I have to
I
go
can
to
send
the
an
office.
email blast. It works. I said a couple
I have
cases.
enough admin that I could work a day at home a week, but I do that across the nights.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
Across my week.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't feel bad for them.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah, I think that one of the other things that they were expressing that is something that we talk on a lot on the podcast is like the non-drinking culture, right? And so
John and I talked about that today.
and this is something that like in Morgan's podcast he had specifically brought up is that restaurants in particular are kind of like their margins are based off of like recouping costs on food with beverage, right? And so when the beverage programs are not doing well, or the beverage programs aren't being maybe like enjoyed the way that they should, it's a lot harder. And so this restaurant has incredible food. They have a great setup. It's very pretty. And, I'm assuming that food cost is probably pretty high. But when only 30 to 40% of your guests are drinking alcohol, it makes things a lot harder. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to drink booze. This is the same thing I always yeah.
I do.
Get over it. If you don't like it, get over it.
The conversation John and I had today, of just a side tangent, is just that I don't care if it's literally just a half a glass of wine. If you get a steak, the steak tastes better because you're drinking it with wine. The wine tastes better because you're having it with steak.
Yeah.
No one's asking you to kill yourself. No one's asking you to stumble out of the restaurant. Yeah. But if you're having a steak and you're having it with a mocktail, which is probably pretty sugary and sugar-based and fruit-based, is that making that steak taste better? Probably not. And you're drinking with water, maybe just like half a glass of red wine is not going to kill you. Just saying.
I think comparatively, like you said, mocktails don't cut it. As far as like food pairing, as far as like a dining experience goes.
And I'm biased, obviously, but like,
sure,
come on.
Yeah.
It's just, I really do feel that way. I genuinely.
I think it's so important to have non-alcoholic programs.
100%.
I think it's important to have non-alcoholic pairings at Michelin restaurants.
100%.
You have people that are not drinking because of religion. Or
they can
not
be
drinking
pregnant.
Because they're pregnant.
They can have legitimate reasons, of
or
course.
People that have had like major issues with alcohol in their life.
100%.
I don't want those people to drink.
Absolutely not.
What I don't want is people to not drink and take this like moral high ground.
That's more of the issue. It's the people that have no other reason. It's the people that choose to be vegan when like you don't have a reason to be vegan. Yeah. You're not going to live longer because you're vegan.
Yeah.
You're not going to live longer because you don't have a half a glass of red wine with that steak. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Again, I'm not. That's genuinely how I feel. I'm not even asking you to commit to a full glass. I'm not asking you to commit to 3 bottles. I'm literally saying if you order a fillet in a restaurant, like, please have half a glass of Bordeaux for all of us.
Yeah.
It's good for your soul.
Yeah.
It might not be good for your liver. It's better for your soul.
If they offer a half glass. Because
this is the new thing. I have half glass as everything. Anything on my menu, and this is a plug for the restaurant, anything on my menu, I'll half glass.
But this is the new thing. The new thing is a lot of places are not doing half glasses either.
That's dumb.
I think so.
I think it's really dumb.
They're like, we don't do that. It's like you don't pour half of a glass of wine. You pour half to pour a full. Just stop halfway
through. The bottle's open. Who cares? Yeah. Make the sale, make the person happy. It's also like not hospitable.
And I think too, that's part of it. But I think too, like, I probably see it a lot more because, when Bianca and I go out, we have to hit multiple accounts. And so like, if I have a glass at 3 accounts, I'm almost a bottle in, right?
Correct.
So I ask for a half glass, and that's why I end up drinking beer. And not only that, but nowadays you go out to a restaurant in San Francisco, you get a glass of wine, it's $18 minimum. We were somewhere the other day, the cheapest glass of wine on the menu was $17 for the least expensive BTG. And
I used to have your favorite, the Côte d'Aron from De La Jeunesse.
Oh yeah.
And I think I had it on for I did actually. I had it on for 15. No, I had that on for 16, and then I had on Bedrock Zin for 15.
Yeah.
Oh, no, my cheapest glass is Skylark Rosé for 15.
Right.
So that's my cheapest BTG.
Yeah.
But like that's it. I mean, everything from there it goes to like 17 and up.
And
it is what it is.
So a beer's $8 and is not going to get me as fucked up as a whole glass of wine. Yeah. So I'll go to 3 accounts and I'll drink 3 beers, Yeah,
and I'd drink wine,
I'll be okay. Or I guess nowadays, there's if I had an expense account, I would probably drink wine too. But when it's
if you come see me, I'll always pour you wine.
Thank you. You're the sweetest. I know. But yeah, I mean, I think, we're in this really kind of like interesting time. I had lunch with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about San Francisco, the state that it's in. And we were saying that, October's off to a really good start as far as my side of things.
Yeah, same for us. No, it's been good. It's been good. I'm happy.
Yeah. October 1 really, I think, marked a really great turning point. These people being back in office is great. It's also OND, right? I was concerned because it was going to be back to office and sober October, but I don't think that's as much of an issue. But the best part is after sober October is November, and after November is election. This
as long as it goes well.
Well, yeah. I mean, people drink in happiness or sadness.
That's true. Very good
But
point.
this person said that they think that after the election's over, it's going to be like the Roaring Twenties. Like it's just going to be this like sigh of relief. Everything's finally over.
Yeah.
And that would be fucking cool because honestly, working in San Francisco in 2019 was
Depressing.
no, it was awesome. 19.
Oh, 19
was
yeah, 19 was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never
Oh,
regretted.
dude, we were booked every night.
I
We
moved
were
here in
fully
July.
booked every night.
I moved here in July 2018, and I remember just like hitting the ground running, and I was working 2 jobs, working 11 shifts a week between Boulevard and Quince, and I was fucking wiped out. And then finally, I got offered a full-time position. Well, I was 8 Tables Boulevard Quince. I got offered a full-time position at Boulevard for nights that was going to make me more than any of the other jobs were going to make me. And I took that job, and I worked that job for like 2 months before I got the assistant som role. And I was like, this is it. Everything's fucking great. I love San Francisco. The last 4 years, almost 5 years, I fucking hate the city. And I
Cheers to
don't.
that.
Everybody else that's listening, like, I love San Francisco
Cheers
for
to that.
so many reasons.
That
but
was
I'm
not
just
meant
like,
to be a symbol. Oh, am I? Okay, that's fine. Okay, it's
We're
great.
ready.
No, it's great.
We're gonna do a little rinsey rinse. There's nothing left in that bubble bottle.
No, there's nothing to rinse, or there's not really much. It's a white, isn't it?
It's a white.
That's right. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just rinse with it. It's fine. It's definitely someone's there.
Sorry, listeners. If you're not watching, we're pounding wine and about to enjoy significantly more wine. So get ready to listen to us get messy.
This is already a wine that I don't want to blind. And I don't mean that like you did something wrong. I'm just telling you like it's.
I know I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, you might have. Don't get ahead of yourself.
I don't know. Well,
don't
that's true.
don't get ahead of yourself.
Well,
it's just
it depends on who you ask.
like.
Okay, so we decided today to do, instead of us having a bottle blind, which is what we usually do, to just enjoy a glass of wine while talking and not overthink it.
Which we did. Did we mention it? Because we should shout it out because I thought it was very good. The wine we drank leading up to this.
Oh, just now?
Just now. The Brick
yeah.
House. The Brick House. Brick House Gamay. It was great.
This is not the blind wine. This is just the wine.
No.
that we're
I just
enjoying,
wanted to shout them out because like I genuinely I opened 2 bottles of the Pinot on Thursday night.
Yeah.
I just think their wines are great. And they're very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
Ribbon Ridge is a place that more people should drink from, and it's kind of hard to drink from at a moderate price point.
Yeah,
and
except
Brick
these
House
guys.
is kind of there's like so I'm just saying I just really like their wines. I think they're great.
The other winery that I was going to tell you earlier, this is a side tangent, but is J. Christopher. That's Ernie Lozen's winery that he bought.
Oh.
Those wines are cool and reasonably priced. And then we just finally brought in the Appassionata wines that he does, which are like the top Oregon wines that he makes. They're good, but they're pricey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, just wanted to shout out a little Ribbon Ridge love because, like I said, I had that open. If I didn't mention a couple bottles earlier this week on Thursday, and Tables loved it. I just think Ribbon Ridge wines are great, and they should get more credit than they do. And I'm a person that's like actually not completely obsessed with Oregon wines. Just honest.
Self-proclaimed.
Or just like just being open. Maybe I should, go and walk the land and do all the things, but I just don't drink as much Oregon wine. No, sorry, I drink a decent amount of Oregon wine. I'm not blown away as often as I wish I was.
Yeah, I think
Is that bad to say?
I don't think so. No, I mean, I think that like everybody's allowed to have like certain things that they like. I mean, for me, like Tempranillo, Rioja, it's like, yeah, I like it, but there's Ribera de Duero, there's, Toro. If I really want something fucking huge, I'll drink Toro.
I'd rather drink Rioja Alta anyway.
Right. Or then you get into the regions.
Or even like what's the other Alvesia? Alvesia. Yeah, like Rioja Alvesia. It's like those little,
and then
little tiny
Oriental or Rioja Baja.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I'm just a little bit more, let's not throw so much American oak on our wines. Imagine that.
Yeah. I think that's fair, but it's also just like, like Napa Cab. I also don't always like to drink Napa Cab. There's some that are really impressive, but for the most part, it's something that I get to try a lot of, and I would say that it's not something that I'm like particularly like ravenous for.
I was just, as you were saying that, thinking of the last time I opened a Napa Cab for recreational purposes in this calendar year, and it was actually my birthday, and my dad opened it. It was a bottle of SLV from Stag's Leap, but it was
cool.
it was a 2010,
Yeah.
and it was great. But we also opened it side by side with a 2012 Quintarelli Valpolicella Superiore.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think he was trying to fight to kind of be like, if my wine's good too, but we were at a restaurant and the guy who's owned the restaurant was like, but the Quintarelli. And I was like,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
The Stag's Leap was awesome. It always is. But
Yeah.
like the SLV especially, but like it's Quintarelli.
Yeah, I think and I think that's kind of one of the things is that like now the things that I get excited when it comes to Napa Cab is that it's aged.
Has to be.
The younger stuff, the 21 vintage is the first time I've been really excited about Napa Cab in a long time.
They're very good.
You know, there's a lot of great vintages out there. There has been a lot of great vintages recently. It's been some shitty vintages recently, obviously too.
Guy.
But the 21 vintage I think is going to go down in the books.
I hope so.
It's immediately enjoyable now from most of the producers.
Agreed.
And also can age forever and ever and ever.
Agreed. And without going on a huge tangent, I do like 21s. I think 18s and 16s and 13s are the next that I just think are like, those are what I will buy with my own money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this wine, here we go.
While you're tasting this, and I'll pour you a little bit more, but while you're
Yes.
tasting this, let's take a step
Let's
backwards.
talk
Take
about
a step
me.
into the past.
Let's talk about me
And
espresso.
Reintroduce,
Because this is my new favorite song.
and we'll reintroduce
me
you
espresso.
to everybody that potentially listened to you or hasn't quite listened to yet.
Well, here's the thing: is I talk way too much, which I've intentionally not done this podcast, and I think I did too much last podcast. So I'm really proud of myself.
That's why we didn't post it.
In the
It's
well,
like I didn't get to
shut
talk enough.
up.
I'm deleting this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's the thing. I'm good at talking. Yeah. No. I don't like to talk about myself. So here goes. Yeah. Like you. I don't know if you kind of prefaced it in the. It's hard to tell because we were doing some recording tonight, and I don't know what's on the thing
we were
and
talking
not.
for a really long time before we got started, and then we had a little bit of a camera snafu. Again, we're getting it sorted out. But yeah,
The people like when it's real, though. Like the people
This is
like
authentic.
I
is a
like
natural podcast.
I like this is the raw.
this is a low intervention podcast. This is so low intervention.
This is just sulfur right before bottling.
yeah.
The podcast.
I have a light there, a camera, and 2 mics.
Sulfur right
Oh, and a
before
little
bottling.
LED.
I want that as like a t-shirt because I
Yeah.
feel like that's me as a person.
I love that.
Sulfur right before bottling.
Yeah.
Anyway, so me, I am not a wine person by trade until very recently. I had a little stint. I guess we'll get to. Let's just do this quick. I just don't want to talk about myself forever. I just think we ranted about 20 minutes about Sancerre that will never see the light of day, but we ranted
for the
so we
best.
can talk a lot. So point being, yeah. So I think it's important to mention my dad's a certified somm. I feel like I have to give a lot of credit to that.
He got certified how long ago?
Oh, I wouldn't try to speculate. A while
20
ago.
years, 15 years, 100 years.
A while ago.
Okay.
But he's a fermentation science major from Davis. He rightfully, as much as I'm like, dude, you don't tell every single person, rightfully points out that there was a time that the fermentation science program at Davis was not divided into multiple divisions. There was like viticulture, oenology, and blah, blah, blah. It was like all of it was one major, and you had to like pass all these classes.
Wow.
That now you can be more specialized. Where like the Kathy Corson, I mean, you go down the list of like great Napa winemakers who were Davis grads. Those people, and not that he's a winemaker, but he did make some wine for practice, not in professionally. But those people had to pass the program differently than when he was there. So I think it's interesting. But then just as a fermentation science major, a passionate wine consumer, sometimes I think too much, but it's fine.
I feel the same way about myself.
He'll listen to this, and I'm the same way. I'm not calling anyone out. But point being, I could not talk about my relationship with wine without saying that I was raised in a house. I always say this to people when they ask me if my dad was the reason why I became a chef. I don't think my dad's the reason I became a chef, but I was raised in a house to appreciate flavor.
Right.
And I think that's very, very important.
So we
and
talked
I have
about
to give
the deleted podcast.
That was, yes, that is the thing that I like to give a lot of credit to. So just the synopsis, the quick version, is to say that I started off originally at a country club, working with my old college roommate. And I have this little tiny story of, there was one, it was the expediter, which I always liked as a position because I like expediting in restaurants. And I was expo, and there's one day that the chef kind of needed help plating. I jumped in, and he was very, very meticulous about the way his food looked. And I kind of started, and I saw his hesitation, but I've always said I'm very good at like replicating something. If you show me how to do it, I'll do it the way you did it. It's like, I might not be the person that invents the way you did it, but I can do it that way if you just give me the raw materials. And he kind of looked, and he kind of checked the first few, and then he was like, okay, cool, like we're busy, but like this is good, like this works. So that, and like I felt very inspired at this moment of like, I really like just that. I liked putting food on a plate that tasted good. It made me feel good. It like woke something up inside of me. And I had done the whole thing that everyone was doing at the time, or at least industry folks were doing at the time, of like watching a lot of Bourdain, reruns of like the older stuff and what he was currently doing and all that. And I could watch it for hours. So I was very inspired by that. And I don't think that's a minor point. I do think Bourdain had an influence on a lot of people in this industry. However you feel about him after the fact or whatever, because I do think it's sometimes there's a little pedestal there that I think is maybe slightly overdone, but still RIP anyway.
Yeah.
Not to badmouth anyone after they've passed, but anyway, I left there. I was frustrated with that job, and it still feels kind of surreal to say, but I was frustrated. I went down to, we used to go to Market Hall a lot to buy bougie stuff. Every now and again, I would go to the wine shop there, where I now know the guys a bit more. And I walked past Oliveto, and I was like, that place looks pretty cool, not knowing it's one of the most iconic restaurants in American culinary history, and decided to walk in the door and ask for a job. Got the job, started as a food runner. Food ran, hosted, served. And then one day my manager was like, you kind of have to pick between front and back of house. I decided to pick back of house, but there was a little window where I would like make a salad and then go run it out to the table, or make a this and run it out to the table, which was always kind of fun. But I told myself that if I was going to turn my back on the private education that I'd had, that was very expensive, that my parents were not thrilled about me leaving and abandoning.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. I had to go do it in the big leagues. And my ex, who was the pastry chef at the time, was like, there are restaurants that will just hire you. Like, don't be afraid. Just like walk in the door. So I said, there's a connection between Oliveto and Cattonia with Michael Tusk. It's Italian. I could have some familiarity with the food. It'd be easier transitioning into that than like anything else, like a Jardiniere or some of the other kind of things that were similar at the time. Sure. And I just said,
Another
I'll just try it. R.I.P. Jardiniere and Tracy. Not Tracy's alive and well, but R.I.P. Jardiniere. And I went in, and actually it was kind of funny. I don't know if you know this, but it was actually dropping up my resume, like two birds, one stoned it with a date. And so, yeah. So I was like, I'm going to go do this. And I was also like, to this girl I was kind of trying to impress, but I was like, come meet me. And she was like, oh my God, this place is so swanky. Da, da, da. So it went well, but that's
like, I already paid for the cab to get here.
That's beside, yeah, exactly. That's beside the point. But yeah, so it doubled, and then I just kind of came in. And it's funny because my stage there was like, I didn't actually do much of anything besides cut pork back fat with Neil Stetz. If you're listening, Neil, shout out to Neil. Love Neil. Yeah. To make mortadella.
And I was there on the East Coast.
I think. Right. Yeah. And I was doing it very slowly, and I just remember figuring out how to do it faster part of the way through and being like, oh my God, I'm doing this next to the executive Sue of Quince, and I am going to never get hired here, and everyone will hate me, but they hired me anyway. So I did Cattonia. It was hard. I was very green. I could not figure out up from down on some days, prep wise, and just everything, because that restaurant was an absolute monster. And
still is, yeah.
And for the size of the kitchen relative to the amount of covers they do, it still ranks among the top restaurants in the country of like plates served for square footage of the kitchen. And the quality of the food that we were putting out in that team was like really top notch. I think they make great food there now, but like I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying, but whatever. They've gone through kind of a conveyor belt of CDCs since, but like we had a all-star team of sous chefs and this like very green team of cooks who have all kind of gone on to do some pretty interesting things with their careers. Shout out Daniela running Pacino and like Jake, corporate chef of Gap. Like there's like a pretty solid group there of like people who went on and did things. I eventually ended up doing the things that I'm gonna now spill out. But like, yeah, it was kind of interesting seeing how far that team went, and we felt like we were doing something at the time, but it kind of is like the validating factor now. So I was like, yeah, if I could just figure out like anything here, then I'll be able to like actually cook and be good at my job and maybe be able to go on and do bigger and better things. So I did private events, got better, got to working pasta at night, which was like my goal when I got there. And I was like, if I got to that pasta station, I could go anywhere in the city. And I took that and ran with it. So did that whole thing. And then I was like, well, let's go try my first Michelin restaurant or Michelin-starred restaurant, Jesus, English. And went to Astor, Daniel Patterson Group, Brett Michael Cooper, great team, very small, very. When you put a plate of food out, like that was, you made it. Mm-hmm. We didn't have prep cooks. Like if you put a plate of food out, you made every component of that. You've probably fermented the things that were in it. Like it was cool that like you had full ownership. Obviously things are being checked by, your management, but like management was 2 people. Mm-hmm. So it was a really hands-on, like 8-person team or so. And we made great food and we got recognition for it. And we were like eater, like top restaurants in the city multiple times. It was a cool spot to be. So I did that. I went on to ramen shop just to like fuck around and learn ramen and get myself more familiar with Japanese ingredients like I did in Astor a bit, but I'm very passionate about Japanese food as we'll come to later on. Did Astor, left, went and traveled Europe for 3 months, had a phenomenally good time doing that. That's a whole other podcast just about that trip. Came back.
We have to wait for the statute of limitations to end, so that way you can actually talk about it.
Big facts.
Yeah.
And then I came back and I was like trying to figure it out. I staged it in situ, trying to figure out a way to Bennu, because I was like, Bennu is the gold standard of cooking in San Francisco. Got back from my stage in situ, sent in my resume to Manresa, who emailed me back in like 15 minutes at like 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, I have a stage at Manresa. I was like, this is not real. Staged, third night sat down, and they were like, or Chef Romero was like, so you're green-ish for what we're looking for, but like we see some potential. Like I was saucier to Laurent Gras, who was saucier to Alain Ducasse, so you'd be learning sauce from like the second, I think, most Michelin-starred chef in the world. Second degree from Alain Ducasse, like, do you want this job? And I was like, well, I live in Oakland, but I guess I don't anymore. Yeah. So I took that job as saucier at Manresa, where I got to do some pretty amazing things, which again, it was like a whole other podcast. But an important note, Astor, I got to do a little bit of wine stuff, tasting, and I was like, at the time hanging out. That's where I met Chris Gaither, actually. Mm-hmm. Was I was dating, my ex at that time was the pastry chef, or worked way to becoming pastry chef at Octavia. So I'm backtracking, but where I met Chris Gaither of Ungrafted, and he was running Octavia's wine program at the time, well before Ungrafted ever existed. Right. So kind of a fun thing where everyone now knows who he is, but I've known him for like 10 years now. It's kind of weird to say out loud. So anyway, went on to Manresa, where I got to work with another, was then and then is still now current master somm, Jim Rolston. John, whose name I don't remember for whatever reason, was a level 3 pushing for him as his MS, and I would work the morning shift into the night as the saucier, finish up, go taste wine with them. Sometimes, especially on Sunday nights, John would just pour me whatever was open that night that was extra, and it would sometimes be like, obviously, some pretty ridiculous shit. And also cursed me by introducing me to Zaltos. And why did you do that? Because now I'm just ruined. So anyway,
some people have heroin addiction, so it's
that's not the worst addiction.
About the same.
Yeah, correct. Not the worst addiction to have. So that, and then did that. Was tired of living in the South Bay. Hated the South Bay with all my soul. Still do. Don't care if you live there. I just don't.
I care if you're listening.
That's another one. I just don't care. Fuck the South Bay. No, but yeah. So I left and made the mistake of like I left to go to Bennu. I did that unnamed last podcast, but whatever.
That's okay.
I left.
Nobody will hear that one. Everybody will hear this one.
And I did, yeah, right. And I didn't give my. I literally like I was like, can I? Because Bennu was closed on Sundays and Mondays. Minimum was closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I was like, can I just like have that Tuesday off so that I can have a 2-day weekend? But basically, you know how you take that gap between work.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
No.
I literally rolled from Manresa into holidays at Bennu.
Yeah.
I was trained for the station by a kid who had worked at Mirazor before that.
Baptism
one of the most talented people I've ever been in the kitchen with, including even more talented Chef Joe, who's the CDC at the time. I've never seen anyone with knife skills like that. Fuck your knife skills. Fuck my knife skills. Anyone who's listening, fuck your knife skills.
Yeah.
I promise you don't have Chef Joe's knife skills. I don't know anyone who does. So anyway, Chef Joe was great. Simeon was great. Learned a ton, but just Benny wasn't for me. So then I decided to take a break from the kitchen in general. And that's how I ended up working at Ungrafted full time, or like officially full time, while splitting that time with working at the Riddler, which was great because I already liked champagne, but then I got to be a champagne geek. That's a lot of the stuff that I learned at the Riddler still carries with me today. So I guess so what did I do after that? Then the pandemic hit, and that's what stopped me from working in those front of house positions. I don't know how long I would have done it. Maybe too long, who knows? But I'm glad the pandemic hit because I stopped, had a moment to kind of breathe and figure out what I wanted to do. And then when a dear friend of both of ours presented the opportunity to be a sous chef at Ozumo, I took it and thought I would be there for a few months till the Michelin restaurants opened back up, which obviously is not how the pandemic played out.
Not really.
But that was how I ended up in that restaurant, worked my way up to becoming an executive chef. But especially in the pandemic, and I will shout them out because I love my rep and I love them, but my Kermit Lynch rep, Daniel, great guy, really like drinking wine and talking wine with him. But the Kermit team in general, shout out to all of them who work the retail side, Will and the gang, Jennifer and the gang, the whole crew over there are just lovely, lovely humans. And I always tell people it's like my favorite experiences in life is to go into Kermit, be picking up like a tiny little or allocation or like a few bottles or whatever, and like the whole staff's like, "Hey, Will," and here's some guy at the counter buying like his like fucking whatever allocation of like, here's my $5,000 tab, and no one greeted him like that, and I'm like, hi. It's just very satisfying. I just like being the little guy who's like, I'm not important. I'm not important, but like that's okay. And actually on my last night at Ozumo, I had like half of them in. They brought in some cool stuff. Like it was like all a whole bunch of like, what did we do? It was like Gavana and like Chez LaSalle, like just a bunch of cool shit. Yeah. And then Jennifer brought me one of my favorite bottles of wine anywhere in the world, the Cuvée 3.14 from Jean Foyard. It's Morgon, but it's like specifically that like single vineyard.
Right.
Or is it it's a Ludi.
Ludi.
Actually, yeah, well it is, yeah, by definition. But anyway, so that was cool. And then I just kind of I burned myself out running a restaurant through a pandemic. And I'm already proud of myself for telling the story much shorter than I did the first time. But yeah, I burned myself out. Traveled South America for 3 months, didn't really do or think about wine much. I did cook quite a bit at like hostels and stuff for hostel people and this and that. And then I came back and staged with the Quince and Cattonia folks again to potentially go back, and decided I wanted to do wine. And you gave me a reference over to the folks at Boulevard and Prospect. And, obviously still had to prove myself, but I think they were slightly hesitant at first, but I think now they feel, I would say, pretty good about that decision. So here we are.
Here we are.
That was much better. I feel good about that.
That's great. Yeah.
I could have done it still shorter still, but that's not the
It's
worst.
fine. Don't overthink it.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I just feel like I'm always trying to like hone that story in a bit because people ask and then they want to know more, and I'm like,
I was
well,
born
have to
and
rant
now
to
I'm
tell you.
here.
Yeah, like I want
That's
to
the shortest.
Yeah, like I can't rant. I can't tell you the whole story without ranting a little.
Mm-hmm.
So So anyway, and so yeah, I just feel like I was a chef who always kind of studied wine along the way in a way that wasn't just like I'm a chef who likes wine a lot because I definitely know a lot of those, but I like have the CMS intro book and like read it partially. um, but I'm very barely really. But like point being, like I actually studied and like we would do blind tasting groups with the grid and like with the level 3 grid and like actually go through the steps. And I feel like between that and like doing blind tasting and ungrafted and learning technical stuff from them, and then obviously having to know a lot of technical stuff now, I feel like it's a weird combination of like I'm not certified in anything at all. You're not, John's not, and like who fucking cares, obviously. But like it's interesting because people ask, and I'm like, I don't really know what I am. I like to think that I know enough.
Yeah.
But those accolades I may go for at some point or another. But ultimately, now I am a wine professional, so I should know things about wine. But fortunately, I'm very passionate about wine, so learning more is easy because
And enjoyable.
it's more easy when it's easier is the way to say that. Easier when it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
So speaking of the grid
Yeah.
and wines that you don't know what the identity is
Sure.
when they hit your glass.
Yeah.
It's called blind tasting.
I've heard of that.
We're doing that now.
We can
Taste it.
We
should talk.
If you want to dig into it,
I don't want to go super technical
Sure.
here. I have some speculations.
Okay.
I feel like
what are the big things that are steering you where you're going?
Well, it's got a richness to it, which means either you're getting that richness and sugar content probably from from grapes that were harvested slightly later. Mm-hmm. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. There is possibly some age involved with the wine, although I'm not getting a lot of secondary characteristics, some of that kind of like nutty and sort of like toasty, even like kind of, oxidative kind of things going on. I'm not getting a ton of that, so I don't think it's a youthful wine, but I don't think it's like a 1940 account or something like that. Sure. Like, which is really disappointing.
Well, I love you, but I don't love you that much.
It's kind of, to be honest, I'm not really coming back because I saw a wine this color and it wasn't Yacam.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, whatever, dude. So yeah, I have this inclination that like maybe we're in like a Chenin Blanc or Riesling kind of late harvesty kind of situation. I think for how old it is, I would think if we were in the old world, we'd be getting more acid. I could be wrong again. I guess I should just stop saying that. But I think if we were in the old world, we might have a touch more acid and maybe even a touch more complexity on the palate, in the sense that older world, cooler climate, longer growing season, more just potential for depth in general. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this could be like a late harvest Chenin from California. I feel like this could be a Riesling from Oregon. I feel like we're either like Cabernet or Spätlese in terms of like, without going technical, but like kind of the residual sugar. Mm-hmm. I'm just not getting. I mean, it had some effervescence when it first opened. Yeah, I'm not convinced this is an old world wine.
Okay.
So I will just, without going overly crazy, I'll say yeah. I'll say we're New World. New World Oregon late harvest Riesling.
Okay.
2012.
Do you want to reveal now or?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. This is, in fact, an old world wine.
See, that's why you should just edit this out.
It's a bit older. It's a 7 Selbach Oster. And this is the 2007 vintage was the last vintage in the Saar, where they used to have to label it Mosel Saar Ruhr. And this is the last bottling of that. Now they all just say Saar Valley or Saar or whatever. So yeah.
I just think wines with residual sugar are hard to blind. That was my comment about like why I didn't want to blind this wine is that like if you if you're the person that can nail this wine for what it is, the amount of that you have to drink to know
right.
They
and to even get into even to split the vintage or to get the vintage in a Stelvin bottle.
I saw that it was Stelvin, but I was also like, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That would be very impressive, and I cannot do that. And I'm not one of those people. And I said kind of the Napa Cab boys, you know a ton about Napa Cab, that's great, but like
I just poured myself
wine professionals do generally need to understand the entire world of wine as much as we can, jack of all trades, master of none, versus just being like, I know Napa Cab, or in this case, I know German. Riesling? Are we still Riesling? Oh, we are Riesling. Yeah. Okay, I feel good. I almost said Riesling Cabernet. I almost did. It felt slightly richer than that.
Yeah.
But that's where the age comes in.
You were saying Cabernet Spätlese, it's Cabernet.
Yeah.
Your Riesling or Chenin, it's Riesling.
Oh, I don't feel bad about that.
It has age. And I think really the acidity fell off because it's older and because it's only a Cabernet level.
Yep.
I think that's another reason that it's not showing as well as it could be showing.
No, I will say this. I'm
saying it as respectfully as I can because I think it's still fun. It's in a great place. This wine, when it was released, this is one of the Sundial vineyards in the Saar. This wine, when it was released, was probably like $17.
Right.
$18, you know? But it just shows you like the ageability of Riesling. I think
this
it's fun.
is going to be very difficult because I did that intentionally.
I'm going to do a little rinse with Gamay.
You should.
This
it's kind of hard to say because I've been tasting it over the time that it's been, or since it's been open. It's kind of hard to say whether it's better to blind now versus when it was first opened.
That's okay. I'm going to miss it anyways, so.
You are going to miss it.
So
if you get this, I don't know what I'll give you, but you get
Chateau Moussard. It's I'm blinding a Lebanese wine right now.
You'll get something.
Oh yeah, I'm fucked. Yeah.
I don't think this is a fair blind.
It's okay. That was not. It's more just like
technically that would be legal.
Technically,
this is technically legal.
Oh great.
Yeah, this is technically actually.
So it could be one of 220 different things. No,
correct.
Yeah. It's.
I'm trying to like.
Definitely Sancerre. It's gotta be Sancerre.
Yeah, it's gotta be Sancerre. Sancerre Rouge in this case. Yeah. We hope. Maybe a really oxidated rosé.
Yeah. Could be.
Could be.
Or you know how like Sauterne will get.
Or white from white from like the 50s. Yeah.
Cool, fun wine. Wild nose.
Yeah.
Weird.
I didn't know what to expect from this. It's a good podcast wine. It's a good conversation wine.
Well, yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know. I wish you had tasted it earlier. I feel like it. I want to say that it was showing more of what it was earlier. I want to say, but that's subjective anyway.
Whatever's still in the bottle is going to be less oxidized. So maybe on the second approach we can try.
And it's obviously fairly old.
It's got a little touch of age.
It's got a little touch of age to it, so I can say without giving anything away.
I think one of the, you swirl the glass, it has that brown in the meniscus. It kind of has that like soy saucy look to it, even.
Without too much soy saucy taste, like a Bordeaux that's just falling.
Yeah,
off a
exactly.
cliff.
And it also has this like really interesting like green, savory component on the nose.
Here's a question for you with just only like a 2 to 3 sentence answer, but how do you feel about drinking wines that are very old in general? Because there's certain people that do it and obsess over it, and there's certain people that are just like, that's dumb.
I feel like it's in the right setting, it's great, but I feel the same way about everything. Like I I don't even. It's hard for me to like put a gun to my head. What would I? I wouldn't even drink Syrah every night. I wouldn't drink Syrah every week. You know, and Syrah is something that I generally gravitate towards. You know, I think that aged wines are fun, but you know, eventually they don't all taste the same, but they can get to a point where
that's
they kind of
what
like,
I was kind of getting at. Yeah.
When they all taste like soy sauce, it's like it's cool. It's great. It's especially, I think, impressive when you realize that you're drinking a part of history.
Yeah.
Which I think is the coolest part.
That is also.
But I also think it's cooler when somebody's like had that wine personally.
Right.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Like
that
yeah. To me, it makes it feel more special versus just like, hey, I've got this.
I bought this expensive old wine.
It's cool, you know.
Yeah.
I have more money than I know what to do with, so I buy cool shit. Like, great, good for you.
And sometimes there's that window too, right? Like I feel like certain wines have that peak, and they can go past it and can still be interesting. But like, I don't know. For me, like I had one of the memorable wines of this year was a 2005. I'm not going to remember the cru, but it was a 2005 Premier Cru Moët Saint Denis.
Cool.
And it
Rouge.
And it just sang. Yeah. I mean, we even got to the end of the bottle and we were like, fuck, we should have opened it 45 minutes to an hour earlier. It just sang. And 2005 is a heralded vintage for obvious reasons, and most people know that who would be listening to this podcast. But for me, it was like that wine could have aged to this point or beyond, and there are people in the world who'd be like, that's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But for me, without saying it was perfect as we drank it when we drank it, but like I don't think that I would change very much about where that wine was at. 19 years old. Yeah. It was just like secondary turning into tertiary. For Pinot Noir, I just think after a certain point of oxidation, it just doesn't get more interesting to me. And there are Bordeaux's that do get more interesting with more age than that. But like for me, 20 years on Pinot is like fine. Like if you poured 1940 DRC for me right now, it's probably soy sauce.
Yeah. I mean, we were pouring that 06 DRC Eshizo at Ozumo. That was a cool wine. And it was still like really lively.
No, there are exceptions.
Yeah,
like I told you about that Mouton vertical that we had the other day.
Yeah.
That 66, I shit you not. That 66 was almost the same color as the 82 and 86. And could have aged for, and it tasted like, vibrant would be the wrong word. Sure. It was alive.
Right.
It wasn't like even turning the corner into not being interesting, but drink it because it's what it is.
Right.
It was delicious and could have aged another 20 years because at that point it's deteriorating slowly. But like 20 more years in that wine, I don't think would have hurt it at all. Yeah. I don't think it would have necessarily improved it. It was fantastic. And I was fully prepared as I pulled that cork very nervously for it to just be shite.
Yeah. And it was in shape.
It was
more than in shape.
It fell off fairly quickly, as you might expect, but I say fairly quickly as like an hour, hour and a half of a window, which again, longer than I would expect for a wine of that age.
To capture it while you can.
It was phenomenal. Yeah. So it just goes to show it is possible.
It is possible.
And I've had wines that old that are just soy sauce.
Yeah. Yeah. This wine, again, not really into the soy saucy camp, but yeah, it's good. I mean, it has a cool, like, again, savory character to it. A little bit of, like, a green kind of, like, stemmy kind of vibe. Has a little bit of chew. And then one of the first things I noticed is when I drank it, like, my chest felt warm. You know, the alcohol felt, like, a little bit more present. Yeah. And maybe that's because we were drinking Riesling at, like, you know, probably 8.5% alcohol.
Yeah, fair enough.
So everything's hotter than that.
A little bit.
But, you know, it strikes me as kind of like a... I don't know. It's such a fucking.
I'm not getting a crazy high ABV here. I could be. I mean.
Yeah, I'm not getting a crazy high ABV, but when it warms in the chest, it usually and not on the palate, it makes me think
it's like definitely 13, higher.
13 plus.
Yeah. It's, plus,
right?
Yeah.
Like.
And I'm saying this as like I know what it is, but I'm just agreeing that like I mean objectively it's got to be at least. I'd even say 14. I haven't even looked at it. It's got to be at least 14.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, it's 13 and a half plus, no doubt. and it has this really cool kind of like herbal characteristic to it. What's surprising to me is how much tannin is still left in the wine.
And acid too.
And
It's got
acid.
grip.
Yeah. But like I think like to me usually I would expect the tannin to fall off a little bit more in a wine. I'm guessing this wine is 20-ish years around there. But then as far as the variety goes, it's just a hard pick. It's kind of a shot in the dark.
So this, we don't have to go through the whole song and dance.
Yeah.
You just, like I did, just kind of go through a couple things and just see.
I would say that
Now I'm hosting your podcast.
the color, right, is not as dark as I would expect for a Bordeaux or an Napa Cab or anything else that could age this long, right? This feels like a very mature wine. The look of it, it looks mature. The smell of it, it smells mature. Kind of has this like cocoa kind of cola-y vibe on the nose. But and yeah, again, grippy tannin and kind of like this cooling, like menthol-y characteristic to it.
Yep.
That's really fun.
Little eucalyptus kind of
Very,
thing.
yeah, very herbaceous. I mean, it's tough. You know, when I think about like herbal characteristics like this, it puts me into like, I mean, I remember one of the first times I experienced a wine like that. It was like a Washington Merlot. And I was like, I never knew that I could experience like menthol or eucalyptus in a wine, right? So I always, I don't know, I think of just like kind of the climate more than I think of the grape. But I don't know.
It's a shot in the dark, like you said.
Yeah, I would
This
say
is
that,
not
like,
an easy wine to blind.
The tannin is high, the acid is high, alcohol feels high. So like if a gun to the head, I would go like towards a Nebbiolo camp, but it also just doesn't have that. It doesn't have all those characteristics that I would usually expect in a Nebbiolo.
Sure.
I mean, I'll just talk myself into circles. I'll take 2 guesses. I think I'll allow myself 2 guesses.
I
Since
think
I'm the
this
host,
is
I get-
allowed.
I get
Well, I
2
think it's
guesses.
allowed with a wine that's older anyway.
Sure.
Let's just say that.
Um,
I'll confirm it is older than 20 years.
It's older than 20 years. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking 20 is like youthful, but I don't know. Not that condition is like your thing, but like, you know, I don't think that you've had this bottle for 20 years. It'd be really interesting if you were like 14 and you were like, I'm laying this shit down.
I tended to do that when I was 14. I was
Yeah,
I was thinking
yeah.
ahead.
Me too. It's like, you know, like they say, like if I could go back in time, I would buy a house instead of
No,
Pogs. I would buy.
I'd buy
house.
DRC.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'd buy DRC and I'd sell it and
Yeah.
and buy a house.
Well, maybe. Yeah. Tough. Yeah. I would say that like the menthol and the eucalyptus thing is what steers me away from it being a Nebbiolo. Something with this much tannin would lead me to believe that it's got to be like I don't know, a fuller red Cabernet, but again, the color doesn't match it at all. If it's us, and I'm
Well, it
thinking
can.
about,
I mean, I don't know. Wines this
Yeah.
age, the pigment, I don't know. I'm not trying to steer you in any direction. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, objectively, wines of this age, like it's got some pigment to it, and I don't,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't know. I'll go with like a Merlot dominant wine that's 25 years old. So I don't even know what fucking year we're in right now. Oh, that would only be 99?
20?
25?
2004.
25 would be 99.
Oh, 25 would be 99, yeah.
So it's, I don't know. Yeah, like a 95 Merlot blend. I don't know. That's a guess.
And where are you calling as far as where we are on the globe?
I would
Oh,
assume
you gotta-
I would assume Old World. Yeah, I would assume Old World just because of to me there's like a lack of like newer oak, right? There's like some.
Are you
but-
detecting newer oak and wines that old? If you
don't
can,
think so.
yeah. I'm like, I
But,
mean,
like-
if you can do it,
but,
I'm
like,
not.
I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. I don't drink a lot of Napa Cab that's this old. I don't drink a lot of Napa Merlot or
I
California.
don't
Merlot
drink a lot
that's
of wine this old in
I
general.
don't drink a lot of wine this old, anyways. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a lie.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Brat.
It happens. Can I reveal?
Please, yeah.
All right.
Let's see how far I missed.
It's So it is a 1990.
Look at that.
It is a
Oh, it's
birth
our
year
birth
of both of
year.
us.
Look at that.
But it's a 1990 View Telegraph.
So sweet.
So
I love it.
I thought it would be kind of fun. It's our birth year.
Yeah.
I purchased this bottle. I told you I had it. So I always try to like.
No, I didn't even remember that.
Oh, but yeah, I try to like. I didn't want to like give anything away by any with any random hints or what have you. But yeah, I mean, I didn't want to give away anything by speaking about Southern Rome, but I had again, brat. But like I got to try Rias 68, and it was like. I was so excited going into it. I'm at a table with Ian Cobble.
Oh.
And at the Martins tasting, and I'm just like, oh, it's gonna be so cool. And sorry, just go back. They said Rias. They didn't say the vintage. And then they said the vintage, and I was like, okay, so it's gotta be cool. And then we tried it, and I was like, oh, that's soy sauce.
Yeah.
Like I'm not being like I was like it's a really expensive wine, but like it was soy sauce. So I don't know. I was. Like I said, I wish you had kind of tried it earlier just to have at least like somewhat of a reference point / like, some other data point in general. But
do you know the variety breakdown? Because I mean, I don't know. I kind of got like that smoky characteristic, but like the color was not Syrah, and then it wasn't as concentrated as I would have expected for like a Syrah as far as like that character.
That's hard to say. For a number of reasons, mainly because their signature wine after this wine, I don't know originally. I think somewhere in the late 90s, I could be wrong, and I'm sure there's some asshole out there who's gonna be like, I know the exact vintage. Whatever. Some point, I believe in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, they started making more sub-appellation or single vineyard wines.
Okay.
So La Croix became a thing. So yeah, so View Telegraph, in the mid to late 90s, again, don't quote me on this, started doing single vineyard, single Ludi kind of wines, and that was the birth of La Croix, which is the wine that they're known for. So actually, honestly, even when I pulled this as the blind for today, in my head, I thought this was a La Croix from 1990. Now, they did make La Croix in 1990, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe they did. But they don't, at least what is from what's imported by Kermit, make a AOC Chateauneuf de Pop as just View Telegraph now.
Yeah.
But but to another add another layer, another thing a lot of people don't know is that they do other things within that region, within Southern Rhone in general. So they have paillers or whatever, that Gigondas that they do. But then even within Chateauneuf de Pop, there's a higher elevation cuvee that they do called Piedlong, which is, it's like 80, I want to say it's like 80 Grenache, 20 Mourvèdre or something like that. Okay. And it's outstanding wine. Really, really enjoy it. But point being, it's just kind of interesting because they were making wines differently at this time.
Yeah.
And it's especially fun for me, first, because this is our birth year. Secondly, because I got to meet Daniel Brunier himself. He is one of those larger than life French personalities. And in the masterclass that we had, I wrote down so many things that were like not technical. There were so many things that were just like little like French sayings or just like little nuggets of just like the way he thinks about wine and winemaking and just the world is very interesting to me. Like, just the little magicians in the vineyard, like just like talking about just like the little things that happen, saying that like the wind is the most important part of their terroir in Southern Rhone in general. Yeah. Was something that I mean,
Mistral, right?
Yeah, and you'll hear that in like the Santa Lucia Highlands or certain other parts of the world. But hearing someone like him say those things was so profound. And it's interesting because he has passed the winemaking on to his children now. He's not actually the active winemaker anymore, but when this bottle was produced, he was. So I pour any number of his wines at Prospect now. I think I pour 4 of them because I have the Roquette, the Chateauneuf de Pop Blanc, which is outstanding. I poured that last night also. The Piedlong, the LaCroix is on my Corvin and a couple others. So it's, yeah, I mean, I pour a lot of the wines, but just hearing his story and his winemaking philosophy, it just kind of confirmed everything I needed to like feel really great about pouring these wines. So I thought it'd be a fun one for today. Birth year wine's always fun. So there we go.
And we've only had, I think this is our third or fourth birth year wine together.
Third or fourth birth year wine. Roman brought one to both of us at Spruce.
That was a 90?
That was a 90. Was it Figeac? I think it was.
Are you sure it was a
No,
90?
he brought a way older Figeac.
Yeah.
He brought a way older Figeac.
I was like, it's 80-something, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was 70-something. I think it was like 78 or something like that. Or like a shoulder vintage, like 79. I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
We've drank birth year wine.
We drank that Sauternes at Cayo a few years ago.
Yes.
Yep.
I feel like there's one more, but
there's something else.
But I'm forgetting.
So thank you for this.
So fun.
This is very sweet.
Just fun.
Well, because we have experienced a couple technical issues, we should probably kind of like start considering how we'll be ending the podcast, since this is very, very much less structured than my normal podcast, which is fine. I love it. It's great. I think it shows our chemistry. You've been such a good friend to me over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years.
Feels weird.
July 2020?
Yeah.
You were already there. I started.
Yeah.
Or vice versa or whatever.
Vice versa,
we started around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've known you for longer than that, though. COVID years count as double. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So you really, it's like
I'll
like
take dog years. It could be cool if it counted as 6. I feel like it counted.
Yeah,
as
like
6.
we're kind of out of COVID now, so
Yeah.
we'll carry the one. We've known each other for like 20 years.
It doesn't really feel like we're out of COVID.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Last year, challenging. This year.
Last year felt like COVID still-ish.
Challenging.
This year
Yeah.
feels kind of not.
I think this is it.
more masks and everything
Fucking
else.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Post-election is going to be just a wake-up call, and
So
we're gonna get
maybe
there.
we just end on that. I mean, so post-election, holiday aspirations.
Yeah.
What's your agenda?
I mean, if we can travel, which is always a big if with a 2-year-old, and the podcast.
My favorite 2-year-old.
Uncle Will. The podcast, the consulting, the main job, the other podcast that we're launching. If we can travel, dream would be visit her family for Thanksgiving, because we used to do that every year. And then visit my family for Christmas, because that'd be cool. But other than that, we're probably going to be in the city and hang out with you, hang out with Antoine, invite people over, drink cool wine. 'Tis the season.
Have some stuff.
Yeah.
It's like John said the other night, last week at Boulevard. Katie, it was good for Katie to meet him and kind of see what our dynamic is, because she sees the shorthand text that we do. But he's like, we were like going back and forth, and he kind of realized that we were just doing our business thing. And he's like, wait, like, let's not. But he was like, we got to have stuff.
Yeah.
And that's like the most John
It's
quote
the most John quote
ever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you want to talk about like taking stuffiness out of wine. I think like he's one of those.
Yeah.
He can dial that motherfucker up. He can go all the way up, but
He's been there and done that.
But you don't need to. It's kind of just about like enjoying it, right? Yeah. Wine was made to drink.
That's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
At a table said to me tonight, they were like, I talked to them for a bit, and they actually stopped me part of the way through. They were just like, you just took the pretense out of all of that. And I was like, I didn't want pretense in there anyway. It's like, let's just drink cool wine.
Yeah.
And talk about it.
Have a good time. Wine and food.
Food and wine.
Food and wine. Any advice? What are your holiday aspirations before we wrap it up?
My holiday aspirations were originally there was potentially a Spain trip to go visit next youngest in Madrid, which has kind of fallen through because reasons that don't belong in a podcast, just a bunch of stuff going on. But point being, that's not happening. So I will be here. I will, it's the time of year that it's kind of nice because I can bring wine to friends and have them bring cool shit out too. And that's always fun. But it's always fun when it's family. And some people who are wine collectors or wine lovers, like have people in their family that don't care.
Yeah.
But I am blessed to have parents who really like wine.
Yep.
So it's time that like Papa also opens up some big guns. So I pretty much open his wine cooler and go, not like I do it in a way that it's not going to happen, but I'll just be
Right.
like, well, this is mine, that's mine. We're opening this, we're opening that.
Yeah.
So I'm like hoping maybe this is the year that he opens the Magnum of Beaucastel because he's got some of that in there.
Be cool.
He's got some heaters, and he's like not the guy that collects the big labels necessarily.
Sure.
He collects what he likes, but he's got some stuff in there like, okay, that Clos de Pop, like that's mine.
Yeah.
So it's the time of year to open up fun stuff. I my culinary background does come in handy, so I always make cassoulet
Yeah.
every Christmas Eve.
Right. I remember.
This will be the third year running, but I'd like to keep it going for as long as I can. But third year running, I make it Christmas Eve. We warm it up Christmas Day, and who doesn't want beautiful duck confit
Yeah.
without having to work for it?
Cool
So,
reds and duck confit.
yeah, so it does. I brought up I said Beaucastel and Clos de Pop, so typically is Southern Rhone, and then it's just the rest of the year or the rest of the year's worth of collecting of like cool stuff. So I've got just all this random fun stuff and stuff from previous years, and stuff that I've been sitting on a while, and maybe it's like always the question of like, is this the year that I open this kind of thing, and that's always a fun little conundrum of like stuff that's like you said earlier, like I haven't owned this bottle forever, but there's certain bottles I've had for a long time, and it's always like, is this the year kind of thing. So
And to me, sometimes those bottles are always the most valuable.
yeah,
Right? Like
Yeah.
it's way better than like
I aged this.
I picked this cool bottle up. It's great. It's fun. It was a special bottle. But like when you open something up that you've had for a really long time, like some of those bottles that we opened up at our wedding, I'm like, this bottle's been in my physical possession for like 10 fucking years. Like,
yeah.
it's kind of cool.
I aged that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Some of that might happen, and the rest of it's just like I said. I do Thanksgiving. I typically will make all Thanksgiving dinner too, and there's always got to be my my famous mac and cheese.
Love it.
And typically it's some truffles involved. And,
I'm gonna take your recipe. mac and
Oh, I
cheese
do.
this
Like,
year.
it's a pretty good one. But yeah, it's typically that, and we usually go. My folks are Bordeaux fans, so probably some Right Bank, and we'll have a holly jolly holiday.
Yeah,
So
that's good. It's very politically correct, I'm gonna say.
well,
Yeah.
that's mom. Mom's a politician. You got to do it right.
That's right. Yeah, she'd be so proud.
Let's just hope. The real positive note is let's just hope that we're drinking in celebration come post election, and Trump wins. I mean, not Trump wins. Let's hope that we have a female president, because that would be a reason to celebrate.
Yeah, or if anybody's unhappy, it's a good excuse to open those bottles. You go, is this the year? It has to be, because there might not be another year.
Is this the end?
Now is the time.
Those Rouleau Merceaus I've been sitting on.
That's right. Yeah, it's time, baby.
Gotta fucking do
It's
it.
time.
gotta,
Yeah, that's right.
gotta fucking do it.
Well,
All right, that
I
wasn't
greatly
bad.
appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Pleasure was mine. Cheers.
See you soon.
Boom. Oh, he finished the same sip. Look at that.